we're going to protect the area on the paint right here, and we're going to keep our tool out of that zone, out of that work zone if we can. So you click on your snap-on tool or whatever you got, and we're going to start slowly operating this. It's just a screw, and what I'm looking at is the spread between these two shock arms. And when that spread starts to come apart, which will be fairly soon, like now, I can start to think about seeing if this trunnion will go up there. So you kind of line that up the best you can, and you've got a little bit of thrust in the suspension right now. You can move the suspension a little bit. So there's a 1/16 there that I can move that upper trunnion area around. I don't know if it's wide enough. Only way to get in there is to shove the shock on top of it. And okay, now I'm going to shove the shock down with one hand, and I'm going to pull this back with the other hand, and that should get me in there. And there's not a lot of good spots to hold on to, but there we are right there. Now, rotate that back a little bit. Push that in a little bit. Shove the shock down a little bit. Get close. And then we have our bolt that we cleaned up. And remember, we have the flat spot here. Flat spot on the bolt head. So we line those up, and that don't want to go in yet. So the shock's got to still come down. Oh, come on, baby. We're getting close. It's got to go back a little bit more. Nope, not that far. Not that far. Maybe I've got a little more room on my jack. Hopefully I do. Yeah, I did. Okay. I'm going to take that tool out of there in a second. Keep that stuff around. Oh man. We're getting close. Not going to be close like that. Yeah. Right there. Okay. Now my bolt was in backwards. Remember. Flat part. So let's turn that around. A little bit of flux in that suspension. Turn that baby around real quick. I know I'm blocking the view. There's that. Okay. Now I'm going to take that tool off here in just a second. But what we need now is more grease. I should have greased this bolt before we started, but I didn't. So we'll do it now. Especially the shoulder. That shoulder fits real tight into the suspension. Put a little grease. Not on the outside of the spindle, but more I was working some to the inside where the bolt's going to come out. Okay. Now, oh, come on, baby. Oh, crap. I'm fighting it. It's okay. I fight this crap all the time. Let's see if it'll tap. Okay. Now we're starting to get somewhere. Okay. Now, let's get this little swizzle stick out of here. Keeping our hand on the end of the handle. Keeping our head of the thing bent over. You could also use a ratchet handle that was shorter than the opening here. That would also work. Now, if you don't have one of these cool tools, which most people probably don't. Okay. There we go. Okay, there's how much grease came out the end of that thing, so we know we're getting lubed up. That's terrific. Save that in the pan for later. So we're going to check that this is flat again. It's not. It's turned a little bit. So turn it so it's flat again. Once you get it in there, if it's not, you know, straight up and down, you'll fight it. Yeah, I'm gonna end up fighting it. Okay, there's some more grease we'll save, and I don't think it's right. And you can look here. Yeah, and I can put my finger in there. It's not seated properly, and you can hear it. Listen. Okay, that's not the sound we want. So what we're going to gently do is pop it back. Remember, you're using brass on steel, so you don't hurt it. Take our pliers. Put the pliers on there. And when the pliers on the flat, I can see that it needs to be rotated a little bit like that. So we'll give that a shot. Doesn't seem right. Yeah, okay. That flat spot actually leans just to the front a little bit. So we'll just rock this back a little bit. That should be lined up properly right there. Bang, bang, bang. Okay, now that one went home. Now listen to the sound this one makes. Maybe it's partly in the feel too. You can feel that it's seated. And I can hear that it's seated. Okay, so we've got that lined up. That's properly fitted. There's those two. If you didn't have one of these Hatchet exhaust tools, the thing that I do is use a nice bar like this, and you put it up in there, and I set it right there. Now you have to be mindful of our edge on the fender, but I set it right between here and there. And I'm not bolted here and I'm still loose here. So you can see, watch the gap here. Invariably it's on the front one that needs to move forward to get these on here. Now I squished them together with the big blue pliers and squished those bushings so they went home. But you can see by this hair, with just a little bit of force, pinching in and using leverage, we can divide that quite a little bit. Now the trick on that, of course, is that you have to do this with one hand. At the same time, you have to either pull down the shock so that it's over that, or shove this in. And if you've already got them lined up and the shock's where it is, you've got to shove this in while you're spreading that apart like that, see? So that's the other way to do it. So, finishing up, here's our castle nut. When we have a castle nut, we always have a cotter pin. There'll be no test. Okay. There's the cotter pin. There's a hole in the end of this spindle. It's not a spindle, the end of the little nut here, it's right there. I just shoved it through the grease so I know where it is now. I can see it. Okay. It's right there. Here's our castle nut. So you put the castle nut on, line up one of the holes in the castle, one of the shooting holes, with the hole on here, on the bolt. And we're going to shove this through there. And then I'll show you real quickly how to bend those over properly. So the first thing we're going to do is just tweezle that on there. Oh, come on, Tweezly. This is the test as to whether you fouled up the threads or not. And I know I didn't, but it's acting a little funny. I don't think I did. Might just have something stuck in it. Okay, check it. Let's go ahead and crank this baby down. And I'm watching that. See that closed up now? And I'm watching these bushings. This one's becoming tight against the front here. I want to watch that one. And I'm keeping an eye for a hole in the castle to come up here for my cotter pin. And so we're getting real close now. It's starting to tighten up. So right about there is where our little hole is. That should be perfect. Here's the new cotter pin. And so see that one side's longer than the other. I put the long side toward the outside because I want to be able to grab that. So we're going to drop that right into that hole in the castle. And I'm going to see, I don't know if this will make the camera angle better I don't know if you can see that any better or not. This hammer's way overkill, but it's what I have in my hand. I like to turn the slot so that it matches there. Push that down a little bit. Okay. Then I'm going to grab that long end. I know you're not going to be able to see this. Grab the long end of that. I don't know if this is going to work or not. I'm going to grab the long end. I'm going to bend that long end up. And I'm going to bend it against the back there. I don't know if I'm even in the shot or not. Then I take this other one and I bend it around. I'm not going to do it one-handed, but I bend that way. And then I grab the back of it and that bolt, and I squeeze that over there so it's wrapped around the back. You got this on the front. I like that nice and tight, so when you work on the car, so it's exactly the right length. Any longer, you would want to cut it back, because when you work up in here, and you'll probably be the next one doing it, if this thing's sticking out, you're going to be bleeding because you're not going to see it and you're going to put your hand into it. So I like to keep that no taller than the head itself. I'm going to tighten this up here to about probably 32 pounds or so, something like that. And then we're going to lower this jack out from under here, and we're going to put grease on the wire wheel splines. Check the brake thickness real quick. They look real good. The rubbers on the brake system look very good. Once again, don't know if you can see it or not. And calipers look good. The lines are good. These lines are not cracked. You just do a little run around here. Don't grease the threads for the nut ever, but grease the spline right here for the wire wheel. That'll keep that from wearing. So I'm going to use that extra grease that I had in the tin and just put a little on there. You don't want too much. You don't want it flying. It'll come right through your wheel spoke holes if you put too much in, so don't do that. And that ends this session of the lever style shock install.